Canada. If you didn't know, it's the country located right above the United States, right about here. Canada, otherwise known as our friendly neighbors to the north. You may know them as donut-loving, French-speaking, maple syrup pouring, beer drinking, Canadian bacon eating, Eskimo lumberjack hockey fanatics with about the entire police force mounted on horses, eh?
You're nuttier than a Tim Hortons maple log.
Okay, so we might know some of their exaggerated stereotypes, but what do we know about their schools? You'll find that Canadian schools are a lot like those found in the United States, but you'll be surprised to see some of their differences as well. Like the US, Canadian provinces have the primary responsibility for the schools, with some federal and local oversight and funding mixed in. Schools and school curriculum fall under the province's jurisdiction. In Canada, about 5.6% of students are in private schools, whereas in America, there's about 10%. In terms of gross national product spent by Canada on education, it's about 5.2%, while the US falls under 5.7%. Two areas that are different in Canada as compared with the US are publicly funded religious schools and the right for bilingual schools. Publicly funded religious schools used to be more common in Canada. However, now no new publicly funded religious schools can be founded. But there are some provinces who have grandfathered them into the modern school system. In Canada, the province of Quebec has a strong French heritage and speaks French to this day. So, it is fair to say that Canada is officially bilingual. Canadian law states that children who speak a minority language have the publicly funded right to be taught in that language. In practice, this basically means that there are a few publicly funded English schools in Quebec and a few publicly funded French schools in other provinces. The grade breakdown in Canadian schools is also very similar to what we have in the United States. A student will go to elementary school from kindergarten to 5th grade, followed by middle school from 6th to 8th grade, and end in high school for grades 9 through 12. The school year is about 190 days, or 180 days in Quebec, and it lasts from early September to the end of June, with typically 2 weeks for Christmas break and 1 week for Easter break. Teachers in Canada are required to be certified. To become certified, you must obtain a bachelor's degree and have at least 1 year of teacher training. The role of teachers and what they do is very similar to the United States. The professional responsibilities are similar to the States as well. However, continuing professional development may be more highly emphasized in Canada, including development through the unions. The attitude towards teaching as a profession again seems similar to the States. It is considered a profession, but it does get looked down upon. The starting salary for Canadian teachers is around $35,000, and a teacher with 15 years of experience earns about $55,000. Only Germany, Austria, Luxembourg, Ireland, and Korea have top salaries for elementary school teachers that are higher than Canada's. The US has roughly the same starting salary, but has a lower average maximum rate of around $45,000. Teachers do well in comparison to their fellow countrymen. The ratio of teacher compensation compared to other full-time, full-year workers with post-secondary education is 1.05. In other words, they get paid about 5% more than their peers. By comparison, the US is about 0.7, so we get paid approximately 30% less than our peers. There are strong teachers' unions in Canada and have profound differences compared to those found in the US. First, teachers' salaries are not tied to test scores. Rather, evaluations are more designed to improve teacher performance. Teachers are fired more often in Canada due to poor performance. There also may be a little more cooperation between the unions and government, schools, and citizens. Canadian students take pride in their academics and understand the impact that education can have on the rest of their lives. The goal is not just to let students slide by, but to constantly push for higher education, ensuring that Canada's great students then become great professionals. Because Canada has 2 official languages, English and French, ESL programs are set up to ensure that students who may be struggling to understand the language can develop the skills necessary in order to do so. The Canadian population is incredibly diverse, which lends itself to a rich learning environment. Students are free to not only embrace and express their own cultures without fear of judgment, but learn about the cultures and traditions of their peers. Because the population in Canada is so diverse, there are a lot of projects set up in schools in which students are encouraged to be globally educated and involved. This broadened global awareness offers students a range of educational opportunities as well as the ability to interact with others that are outside of their local Canadian community. In Canada, much like the United States, the goal of education is to provide students with certain skills and know how necessary it is to become successful, well-rounded members of society. English, math, social studies, science, and physical education are among the many academic classes in which Canadian students are offered. Specialized classes such as computer programming, business, and professional trades are also offered to students who are interested in working towards those certain careers. In addition, many Canadian high schools have IB and AP programs. While most schools in Canada follow the same standard curriculum, the specifics of that curriculum are determined by the policy makers of each province. Canada spends more per year on education than any other of the top 8 wealthiest countries. This leads to classrooms which are well equipped with highly trained teachers, the latest technology, and any other resource needed to ensure a student's success in the classroom. In Canada, a high level of emphasis is put on standardized testing. Canadian students rank almost highest in the world for their scores. The grades and charts shown are from the Conference Board of Canada and show Canada's educational rating. Notice how Canada is ranked 2nd out of 16 countries and the US is ranked 11th. Canada received an A rating, whereas the US only received a C rating for their educational practices and success. Each section is the criteria in which the countries are critiqued on, and this is how Canada scored. Now take a look at how the United States scored. Take a minute to remember that Canada was given 8 A's and 5 B's. Here, the US is given 9 D's and 5 C's. Interesting, eh?
Canada and the US were much more alike educationally than I had imagined they would be. It surprised me then to see how Canada received an A rating for its education practices, whereas the US only received a C rating. The major component to this, I feel, is public funding. Canada has much more money reserved for education than the US, and this leads to better teachers, better classrooms, and all over resources for students. If the US allowed more funding for education, I bet we would see our marks improve so that we could come from being a C rating back to an A, like Canada.
Like Emily, I was wondering why, since both countries are so similar, is Canada so much better? One thing that jumped out to me was that Canada has more income equality and less poverty. Therefore, less schools have poor performance due to poverty-related problems such as poor funding. Poverty and income equality are big problems with few solutions, but I think that education, along with many other issues, will get better with less income disparity.
What I found interesting during this project was that Canada believes in public education, and their funding is so great that they can afford great teachers and great supplies for their classrooms, for their students to strive. And they don't just want to push students through high school or middle school. They actually want them to learn and be better students. For me, my county didn't provide such great public schools, so I had to find an alternative by going to a private school. And I feel like one of the main concerns with the United States is that we do keep teachers in the field that shouldn't necessarily be there. With Canada, more teachers get fired for poor performance, and that's why I do believe that their public schools could be a lot better than ours.